as far as New Wave goes, like what's the big idea for New Wave as a whole?
So that's a really great question. I give you two answers and you can pick which one you want to go with. So in the short term, right, we are a functional coffee brand that aims to sort of like be coffee for deep work. And so we strive to kind of give you better energy, focus, and mood while eliminating the anxiety and the jitters that come to it. We think that like if you're sitting down to do some really meaningful work, you want to be in a good mood, you want to be energized, and you want to be focused. And I'll get into that and how the ingredients work.
Yeah.
New Wave as a whole, as like a 10-year plan, I sort of envision it being very similar to Bulletproof, but maybe less snake oily, but don't say that. So, you know, I envision like New Wave Labs. And so when you think about Greg Francero, the person, like what I enjoy that I would do for free, I really love biohacking. We can talk a lot about like peptides. I'm into that stuff. We can talk about all the weird Andrew Huberman stuff that I like. I'm a pretty basic, like, you know, I'm the quintessential tech bro turned e-com entrepreneur. And so I love that. So I envision, you know, our next product being something for sleep. And then, you know, going from there, it would be things to be like, we would like to get involved with hormones. We would like to get involved with like blood work and things like that. And then, you know, eventually just being this sort of like company for betterment and company that sort of aims to be, if I think of like that I wrote down like a commandments a while ago, and I'm going to butcher these, but it's essentially, we want to be, everything that we make has to either boost your, like improve your mood.
Sure.
It has to not damage your brain, just be good for your brain. I mean, like increase brain function or whatever, something like that. And then like finally, like the last thing would just be to like, the anti stuff would be like just to relieve stress and stuff. So like that's sort of like the core tenets of any products we make in the future. And I can get into this thing that like we're building now, and I can give you a sneak peek of it. But essentially what we want to do is we have like the coffee, right? You drink it to get into your flow state and do your work. We pair it with this, which is available now. It's a self-locking phone case. And so where's my phone?
No way.
Yeah. So we sort of are going to use this as an upsell thing. So we have this for sale, but we don't really advertise it yet.
Yeah.
So essentially, like you drink the coffee, you put this. It's got like a little, 90-minute timer on there, and I think it died. This one's dead, but you could lock it, and then it basically locks for 90 minutes. I'll charge you.
So I wanted to ask you, so you're telling, I have so many ideas, and when I talk to other like brands and whatnot, they're like, yeah, I want to do, a lot of the times they're like, I want to do things that work. You want to copy people that are bigger, and it works, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of copy paste. For you, where's that coming from, that intuition to say, you know what, I'm going to make my thing, pretty much New Wave, my own thing. I'm not going to try to copy another brand.
I can tell you right now, I've tried to copy tons of brands, and we can get into like the journey of the last 4 years. Even to this day, I'll still copy brands and try stuff all the time. There's no shame in copying, like great artists steal for sure. It doesn't usually work. And every dumb original idea I've ever had that's just like, this is cool for us, it always works. It always works.
Yeah.
So it is like a little bit of trust your gut. And it's also just like I think every product is essentially its own universe. There are things in the universe like physics that are universally true, where it's like, okay, like you got to do some sort of content. You have to sort of like have your cogs and your P&Ls and shit in order, which I've definitely found out the hard way over the last few years. Like I've worked full time in order to support this. So we're bootstrapped, no money raised. I don't have rich parents, and like I've just been blunt force fucking putting my life into this. And I can tell you that like some of it is just like necessity. Like this is what we got, so I got to just do my own thing and stand out. I can't, you'll see a lot of, I think, very similar brands running the e-com playbook. This is for people who aren't in the space. You once you're in the space, you notice it. You can see who spent $100,000 on their website. You can sort of see there's a couple agencies you can see, and you go, that's Nick Sharma's website. Like, I can spot that from a mile away. So I know that these guys spent XYZ on this. Oh, they're using these tools like that. That stuff's pretty obvious. But for those of us that don't have it, you can really only control what you can control. And so for us, it's like, really, I'm just building for myself. Like, what would I think is really cool? And then banking on the fact that there's probably 1,000 people exactly like me that will think it's also cool. And that has historically been cool. That's what works for us,
When you started New Wave, if I'm not mistaken, it was, what year did you start again?
2020, in the pandemic, thick of it.
2020, 4 years, man, that would have been tough.
We can talk about that.
Yeah, and by the way, I would love to get into the story. I've read a little bit, but and I know I believe there's a special song called, related to the actual brand.
Yes.
But when you came up with the idea, and like you said, there's a million and one coffee brands. Like, what made you say? And then obviously the boring answer is like, hey, because that we found a need and we saw this. But like intuitively, like, why did you want to start it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll give you the whole thing. So if you're talking about the product itself, like how did I come up with the product?
Yep.
I was in a startup called Yext, which was like this tiny little 30-person startup, very boiler room, cold call type atmosphere. It was great. CTO is still one of my best friends to this day. It was a life-changing opportunity for me. I was a punk rock kid selling timeshares in Florida before this. So
Really?
it was a really big opportunity for me because it was a legitimate startup that had venture capital back. And when I started doing that, it was like a really, really hard job. I moved my way up from this, sales, inside sales rep to a sales manager to eventually taking over the entire like sales training thing where I had 100 people directly under me. And so we did really well. The company had sold for $1 billion. And then you sort of hit this period where everything worked out really well for me, but I hit this period where I wasn't doing
Much.
anything. I was just there.
Yeah.
So I had personally like vested and run into like there's nowhere for me to go in this company. Now in that 4 years, I was a 26-year-old kid. I was brand new to New York City. I was partying my face off. So I would be out till like 4 or 5 in the morning, doing drugs, drinking, partying, all that illicit stuff that you would do in your 20s in New York City if you're a punk rock kid like me. Then I'd be getting up at 6 in the morning, commuting for an hour, and burning myself out while working at this job, making like cold calls or managing people or doing whatever. So my diet looked like wake up in the morning, have like, and I'm not making these up. Yeah, I would say 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day, 2 5-hour energy shots a day, a Red Bull, 2 Red Bulls a day. I'm shocked that I did not drop dead, but I was just running on adrenaline. And when we sold the company, I sort of just like crashed out, as the kids say nowadays. Yeah. And I literally did the cliche thing where I sold all my stuff. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. I moved out of my apartment, had a duffel bag, and I went to Thailand. And I sat on a beach for 3 months doing nothing, just like detoxing, none of the bad stuff, and just like literally sitting. And so, I make this sound so spiritual, but it really wasn't. It was just a genuine burnout. When I got back, I was fortunate enough to start working at Twitter. And so now I sort of have this completely different company. It's a big boy company, it's no small boy stuff. So I don't want to mess around. I'm doing that. And I'm starting to see the old habits coming back. I'm grabbing some extra coffees and stuff like this. So now, I want to be smart. I know I don't want to go down this path again. I start going to all these nootropic subreddits. And so a nootropic, for the audience that doesn't know, is really just like supplements that enhance your brain. And so there's all this different shit I'm trying, but the one thing that stands out is the supplement called L-theanine. L-theanine is a green tea amino acid, and it's really, really special because what it does is it calms you down, but it doesn't do so by making you tired or sedated. So what happens is you can get all the energy from the coffee, all the caffeine, but you don't get the jitters of the shakes. You don't get crashed out. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this for a couple of years, and it's really helping a lot. Like I make this every day. I'm like taking a pill or a powder and putting it in my coffee every single day just for myself. And then, I read this something randomly about putting raw cacao in your coffee because it was like a mood booster. Mm-hmm. And you put it in there. It's like a natural antidepressant. Raw cacao is sort of, it does all this stuff with dopamine and serotonin. It's just like it's why hot cocoa makes you feel so happy. That's why green tea makes you feel so focused and zen. It's because of the L-theanine. And so now I'm sort of got this combination. It's like coffee, hot chocolate, and green tea, all the best things. I'm drinking every day, no joke, for probably 4 or 5 years. Never really even told anyone about it. Just sort of, that was my thing.
5 years.
Yeah. And so people would ask me, I would tell them, but I never thought this would be the thing. Yeah. At the same time, I'm working my way through Silicon Valley. I'm doing really well for a kid with, 2.8 GPA and really nothing special about him. So I had no desire really to start a business, but secretly it was always my wish. So I was your quintessential, maybe your audience is like this, your quintessential entrepreneur. I would see it. It was cool. I'd listen to Tim Ferriss. I'd see people starting businesses. Why not me? But at the same time, I had a really comfortable gig, great salary. So I was kind of afraid to take that first step, which is the most important part.
No, I was going to say real quickly. So just before you get into the actual startup and everything, for you, what was that switch that said, okay, I'm watching these people make all these brands and I want to be all these things. And then what was that click that made you say, it's all?
The only thing it took for me to start my business, and this is very important for anyone listening, is a global pandemic. So if you can manufacture one of those, it's perfect. So what happened was I was at this company Stack Overflow now, and I'm doing really well there, but like it's sort of just like a button pushing type of job. Like it's most money I've ever made in my life. Pandemic hits and like the whole company freezes because we're in the process of selling the company at the time. So I'm sitting there just getting literally a ton of money for doing nothing. If you've ever seen Silicon Valley, I'm big head. I was just chilling while getting paid. It was the best. But at the same time, I actually joined this online writing group course called Rite of Passage. And this is the single best thing I've ever done in my life. It's actually no longer running. It just, the last session ended. But essentially what Rite of Passage was this thing where you could make your online brand. And it's such a good idea that I would encourage everyone to just follow these steps to do their thing. And this is exactly how I did it. So in the course, you sort of have to talk about your personal monopoly. Your personal monopoly is like, you're going to be a writer online, you and everybody else. Like, what is your specific thing that only you could kind of come at, your angle that you can write about? So what they do, and I might butcher this, but it's like, what have you done? So I've been in SaaS, I've been like in tech and stuff like that. What is like really unique or weird about you? So I had this, like, I did professional wrestling for a while. I did MMA. I'm in a band. I got all this kind of weird stuff. And then simultaneously, like, what are you into? What's your nerd wise hobby that you like geek out about? You could talk to about anyone for all day long. Your friends all think it's stupid, but like, if you find someone else that likes it, you'll corner them in a bar and talk to them about it forever. For me, that's all the stuff we were talking about, the biohacking, the supplements and stuff like that. So when you're in discussions in the Rite of Passage, as you're writing it, like trying to find your angle, I was sort of telling people like, like a good example is this coffee that I drink. So I do this thing. And I said it in a group chat, it's me speaking in front of hundreds of people talking about it. And I started getting DMs. I got one specific DM from a guy named Robbie Crabtree. Shout out Robbie Crabtree if you're out there. But he said, I want this right now. I will Venmo you $15 if you make me a bag and send it to me. And
are you serious?
When the light bulb went off, like right there, it was me. So I was taking that class to make myself a sales guy. That's what I do. So I was going to brand myself the personal monopoly. I was trying to figure out how to do that in sales. The second he said that, first of all, I took the money, made him the coffee, the little bag. I sent it to him. And I was like, oh, no, dude. I pulled up Shopify. I built the ugliest landing page you've ever seen in your entire life. It just had a pre-order button. What I would end up writing, because we were supposed to write these articles, is I wrote this very long manifesto. It's still on the website today. It's called Introducing New Wave and Flow State Coffee. And I wrote that, and I sent it to every single person on my email list. I posted it on my LinkedIn, every single one of my social medias, and just said, hey, I'm doing this thing. It would be cool if you shared it. Not even expecting a single person to pre-order, but like, just, help me spread the word. And we raised enough money to pay for the entire first run, not a single dollar invested. And we've been off of the races ever since like that. So I was really fortunate. Like I said, everyone's got a unique advantage. I think mine was I had a really good network of people who love me and people I worked with and friends that just like kind of really helped me to did that. And so that's how we started. That's cool. But the thing, I think the takeaway for your audience is like, think about your personal monopoly, right? Think about like what you geek out about. This e-commerce is a hard fucking game, and we can talk about that. You are going to have to, when this shit gets ugly and bad, like year 3, year 4, where we're at right now, where it's like horrible and hard, you need the why, and you need like I love our customers. I talk to them every day. They're the shit. They're just like me. I got a bunch of army of like moms that are out there that I pen pal email every day. Like, I'm not letting them down, but like, at the end of the day, I love this product. I drink this every day. So it's like, it's got to be something you love. It doesn't have to be like a passion. Like, my passion is like MMA fighting people, punk rock. I play in a band, music and stuff like that. Like, that's like my stuff that I love to do if you didn't pay me any money. But like, this is an interest of mine that I have, like, I would love to talk to people about. So it's got to be at least something that you are going to be cool talking about for 7, 8, 10 years, or whatever it is,
Yeah. And by the way, like, we got to talk off camera about MMA because I got to see about that. I'm really into that too. But
are you based in New York?
No, I'm based in Chicago. Yeah.
Hate to hear it. All right, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll spar or something. But
right.
what was I gonna say? Yeah, so you mentioned, like right now you're what, 3, 4, and you're going to the 5th, I'm guessing, 2025.
This is 4. We're on 4.
4. Right. Now that there's more things that you didn't really expect, right? Now you actually has your first run, your first batch, and you sold the coffee. Now you're in the point where you wanna, I don't know if you want to scale it, I don't know what you want to do, but at this stage in the business, what do you feel are maybe some of the challenges you're facing now compared to 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
It's scaling for sure. So like, Um, I guess to answer that question, it's sort of like talking about like so it's a solopreneur thing, right? It's just me.
Yeah.
I have some agencies that I've worked with. I've got obviously a really army of good friends in
For sure.
e-commerce and SaaS that like give me free things and advice. But really at the end of the day, it's just myself and then like some freelancers. So for me, it's like my weaknesses is content. My weakness is like doing that kind of stuff. I'm not the best at it.
Mhm.
And so I was like probably inconsistent about that. And I think that's something we could do a better job on. That's what we're focusing on right now. But here's the issue I would say for this is like a warning, I guess, to your audience is like what happens. I have this bag of coffee behind me, and I'm just going to use basic numbers. So let's say this coffee cost me $1 to make, and I sell it to you for $3. I have $2. But while we're doing our content thing, we have grown 5x. So all of a sudden, I need $5.
Mhm.
You see the problem, right? It's
Yeah.
like eventually that sort of
Yeah.
becomes a problem. So these things, when it was like $5,000, $10,000 problems, I had that money where I
Yeah.
could throw it in, knowing it would come back 4 or 5 months later. But
Mhm.
when you keep dumping it in, keep dumping it in to grow,
Yeah.
now you're talking about $50,000 orders and stuff like that. And that's where we sort of hit a wall and had to dial back.
Sure.
And so you sort of play this game with cash flow where you're dancing between like growing and then profitability.
Yeah.
For us, we have to be profitable. Like I will go bankrupt. I'll run out of money if
Yeah.
I can't pay
Yeah.
rent. So I can't 10x this over the next year. I mean, brands could do that. It's awesome. If you have money, great. If you want to raise money, perfectly wonderful thing to do. So for us, it's like sustainable scaling. And it's I think something happens year 3 or 4 for bootstrap founders where it's like it's a real test of your patience. So it is a real test of like, okay, this is working, but it's so much slower than I wanted it to work because everybody comes in and goes 3 years, making 10 million, I'm chilling on a beach, whatever.
Yeah.
Money happens while I sleep. And it's like, this is not a passive income game by any
No.
means.
No.
And you know this, but
Do you think next step would be, and I really want to get your thoughts on it because I know you're very diligent about, not being going into debt, very, very good with your finances from what I'm hearing. Do you think the next step is maybe getting some investors? Do you want to stay? Do you want to grow it? Or how do you want to grow it?
super important to me to be bootstrapped. I think when it comes to investors, look, I fully reserve the right to take this back in like 5, 10 years when I think we are
Sure.
worth investing in, right? If we're like Athletic Greens is a really good example of a brand that was bootstrapped for many, many years. I don't know if you guys know this, but like it was like year 10 or 8 or whatever when they said like let's raise some money. And then they did so at like $1 billion or $100 million valuation.
Wow.
That makes a lot of sense to me because at that point, like you're sort of hitting this wall. I would sort of assume I've been paying myself very well for a couple of years. Now I'm maybe looking to sell. And in that case, I think it makes sense for me. Everybody's different. For me, it would make sense to raise some money there. So if you see me raising a ton of money really quickly out of nowhere, you probably know I'm trying to either sell it or
we get the preview. We called it out.
yeah, exactly. And again, like the good thing about my personal brand is there's no real secrets. Like you just follow me on Twitter. You can see I really talk off the cuff. Like I'm very, very direct. Like I don't believe that giving our secrets out or no, I guess first of all, no one has the time to copy us. And then 2, there's plenty of better brands to copy than us. And then 3, it's like, just, no one cares. So,
I mean, you have a really good brand, and one thing I wanted to mention is you've been posting. I don't know if this is by design, but recently you guys have been going crazy on social media. I mean, you've been posting a lot of content. I mean, is that purposeful?
Yeah, it's purposeful. As my New Year's resolution for New is trying to post 3 times a day, and you're seeing that stuff, and this is kind of embarrassing, but a lot of that stuff is really old, and customers would send it to us. So customers will just send us stuff for free, and I was so lazy, I just wasn't doing it. I got really into trying to make ads work, and that's really tough, and I can explain why that's tough profitability wise. And then I tried to go kind of retail for a while, where retail is tricky for its other reasons. Where if you could get into Target, and if you fuck it up on day 1, you're bankrupt overnight. So there are these interesting economics for both things. And then obviously been working full-time jobs and stuff like that, and so the problem is it's not my weakness. So my strong suit is for a long time I have a weekly newsletter where every Wednesday I just sort of write like, hey, this is what's going on with me. It's like a journal, this blah, blah, blah. Those were really popular, and every time I would do that, we'd push them. So we have good email flows. Like we have an extremely high retention rate. We have a 60% retention rate for customers, which is like a lot higher, but our numbers are very small. And so, right, like imagine that stuff, but it's still we've scaled over 4 years. It hasn't dropped. So, it's one of those things where I could raise money and it would work. But then I work for someone else, and it's not what NooWave's about. We're a punk rock
Yeah.
band, and like I know that in 10 years, if I did this the right way and I stayed true to this, and I worked a little bit harder for a much longer period of time, I will be happier as a result of it.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. I think a lot of brands now, I mean, they want, and it's not really a fault. It's just more what they see on social media, and I know this because I talk to people in that, but they see like what you were saying, 3 years, $10 million, $15 million, $50 million, and they want to like maybe
I
try
thought
to,
it.
you know, yeah, and you can't blame yourself even. Like you're like, okay, well, what if I can't do this? What if I can? But then you got to kind of grind yourself into reality and say, maybe that is possible. Am I capable of doing it? Right. So for you, when you're thinking about your next steps, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you talked a little bit about it, but do you plan to keep doing things, you know, e-com? Do you want to go more wholesale? What's kind of the vision for the company?
The first thing I want to say is that, like, I think just for people listening to this who want to be inspired that like have a business that does like pay you, which I have, is you can make like $10 million in 3 years. Like I've seen brands do it. I am not the model of like, I think I'm pretty average, and most people who are listening to this are average. And so just be prepared for that. But it's completely possible. And I've known some brands who like organic, like crazy, a little bit younger than me, that were TikTok every single day, lived on it, and they got themselves to $3 million in almost under a year. And so I do know that it's possible. I would say also you have to be fucking delusional to try to start a business. And so I don't want to discourage that. I don't want to discourage anyone from like not being fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And like, by all means, be like, fuck Greg, I can do it. I don't care what he says. And you'll see this no matter what when you talk to someone who hasn't started something. It's all the same shit. I said it, they said it. Like, well, I'm just gonna. My product will just be better than everyone's, and they'll find out. It's like that doesn't work so well. But the thing is, I don't want to discourage that, because the world does need more people doing cool shit. And like, if one of you hits, great. Like, you know, the odds are, what is it? 1 out of 10 businesses are gonna fail, and then out of that, one out of 10 of those are going to be above 1 million. So it is a very, very, very small percentage of people that get to that $1 million a year business, even, which is low.
Yeah.
And when you think about like EBITDA and all that stuff, but at the same time, like, what are we doing here? What else is life for? Like, let's fucking go, right? Like,
yeah, no, and I want to like just call this out in you right now. You're very what's the word? You're very radically truthful. You're very truthful in what you're saying. Like you're like, and you say it too in your Twitter post. You don't care like what people think. You're just straight up. So like, as far as, I just want to get a little bit more into the technical business and whatnot. As far as, you know, scaling and growing the business, what do you feel is one of the things that actually comes easiest to you guys?
This is to be the worst answer ever, because it's kind of like the least important thing, and it's the first. I wouldn't say it's the least important thing. What I will say is the first thing that people outsource. I'm excellent at customer service because I care so much. So like not a weird thing, but I guess like I care more than most people about like really excellent customer service and really bad customer service. So if I call and I get like some automated shit and I have to like don't get what I want on that first chat, I'm nuclear and I fucking hate. I'm not a Karen about it. Like I won't say anything, but I'll be secretly pissed. And I will like I can reference like the Wara ring. I used to have the sleep tracking ring, the Wara ring.
Yeah.
And I bought like a new one of those every version. So I've spent $1,000 with this company, and I am a online cheerleader for anyone. You can look at me with 8 Sleep. If I love your brand, I'm gonna recommend it to I'm your best customer if you get me. But if you do this thing, which they did to me, where they wouldn't replace a charger that broke for no reason for like $30, that's it. I'm done. Fuck you forever. On the flip side of that, I had this meal prep company that was, I won't name their name, but they're really bad. The food was not good quality, but it was like my intro to meal prep services. It kept me healthy. I lost some weight. They did their job. They were amazing with customer service. I couldn't leave them because they would make me, I shit you not, like when I went to go do pro wrestling, they made me a poster board collage with all this shit. They like stalked me online, found all my pictures and hobbies, and they were like, good luck, man. We're pulling for you, and we're here when you need us, and like let us know you're back. And if I ever said like, hey, this meal, like you didn't forgot like the sauce of this one meal, they would fucking replace like 30% of the order. It's these little things that I remember. I was just like 8 years ago, and I'm still talking about it. And if anybody says like, do you know this company, I would be like, got you, like yes to use them. So I strive to be like, somebody messages us on like a little automated thing, it goes to me on my phone. Like I'm the customer service. So we have some automated stuff now that Shopify is going down that route. But like if they're like, this sucks, I'm like, the first fucking thing I do is fix the problem.
Yeah.
So if someone says, I didn't get my coffee. I want a refund. I don't write, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me look into that. Wait 10 minutes. No, I open Shopify. I refund them immediately so that the first thing I'm saying to them is, hey, first of all, I'm so sorry. That sucks. I refunded you already. You're good. You can get off. You can hang up right now. You don't have to talk to me. Your problem is solved. Now that it's solved, what's up? Like, why are you upset? And then, and like when they talk to me, they find out it's me. I end up having these really long conversations. So a great example is like, 60% of our customers stay, but 40% leave. With those 40% leave, it's the same thing. Your subscription's canceled. You're good to go. Can I ask like why? Like why are you leaving? What can we do better? I have the same every single time someone cancels. Can I ask you why and what can we do better? And honestly, usually half the time they're like, oh, we just have too much of it. It's the same subscription problem we all have. Like I got 3 bags now and I don't want to like do it. Oh, okay. Well, I can just pause it for you if you want. And then like, just, let me know when you want to go back, or I can do it indefinitely. There's automated ways to do this, right? All these subscription platforms, but I want everything running to me so I can like default figure out what's wrong. Right. I have saved 50% of people trying to cancel just from being like, what's up? And then some people do give feedback. Like somebody try our coffee. We can get into like the product itself is a little bit of a coarse grind because we have to blend these other ingredients in, so it can't be a fine grind for coffee. So it's not the best for espresso machines, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. There's just a way you have to do it with an espresso machine. So a good example, someone bitched about that. I was like, oh, it's really good feedback. I'm going to make sure that's on our website that like, if you got this, you should do this. So I think I rock at customer service. I think I rock at any sort of customer facing thing or sales type thing, obviously is really good for me. And anything that's not like design or like operations, I think I rock at.
Okay. And I want to stay on that. So you're very good at customer service. Where is that coming from? Did you have an experience in another? I mean, I know you mentioned those, but truly, like,
I give a shit. And when it's your company, you tend to give a shit. It's funny. Like I've been an employee more than I've been an owner, right? And you used to always like, you have this boss that's like, what the fuck? And you're like, dude, why are you freaking out on me? I'm just trying to get off at 5 and go have beers with my friends. When you become an owner and everything is like your thing, you care about everything. Yeah. And I think that's just like the simple cheat is like, this is my baby and I care about my baby. And if somebody's upset, then it's my fault. I have like tremendous guilt over that. But at the same time, if somebody is like wrong about something where I'm like, oh, you're making it wrong, just increase your water and do this and try it. Let me know. It's actual like a person rather than these like stupid canned responses that just make you infuriated. When I have all these weird pet peeves, and this is my big pet peeve. When someone's like treating me like a fucking number 1,000 out of 1,000 they have to do today, and they're just not caring about me, that really irks me. And so the inverse of that is when someone like takes care of me, I think that's when they become your cheerleaders. I had like this company started on the kindness of people. It exists on the kindness of people. We have a cult and a community at NooWave that like I would take bullets for. If anybody in my community like needed money and I had to give them money, like, you know what I mean? Like these are it's my family. And so I care. I care is the short answer.
Nice. And so I think one of the things that you're explaining a lot is that, and we don't have many people do this on the show, but you're saying things in the perspective of helping others, at least giving your input to others that are wanting to do these things, right? So like CPG owners, e-com owners, the founders, what to you is like a big thing that you would say like, hey, you're not going to expect this when you first start out?
It's so funny, man, because like we're all such different people, right? So let's put in context of me. Like the thing that surprised me was the economics. Like the economics I thought about on the back of a napkin, right? I kind of understood that like you buy it for the $1 and you sell it for $3, but I really didn't expect that you need 5. And so the whole like scale thing surprised me for some reason. When I thought about how to pay myself, I did a pretty good calculation of like 5%, 10%, very conservative, like this will be my pay. But you sort of forget how much operations are, how many simple little things. There's death by 1,000 cuts on Shopify, whether it's apps you need, payment processing fees, all this kind of little stuff that's sneaky that like, again, if we were, had a stockpile of cash, maybe it's not that big of a deal because we make it back. But having our time frame for being profitable be more like 4 months is really, really bad. And so that's something that I think shocked me. And if I knew more about, I won't say I wouldn't have done it. Nothing would have stopped me from doing it, but I would have been smarter about how I spent my initial money. Now you could have a founder that's listening to this that is like majoring in finance right now and is like, no shit, dude, you're an idiot. Or he's got an MBA. He might be surprised by how hard it is to, make branding and copy and social media stuff that's like really hard.
Mhm.
And so everybody's going to have their own unique challenges. What I think is cool about starting your business is you do get an actual MBA. So if you've ever thinking about like, oh, I want to go get my MBA, just start a fucking ecom business and you will get a masterclass in marketing, operations, finance,
Yeah.
customer service, sales, how to talk on podcasts, like how to write. It's everything. It's every design, social media, like marketing. I am the smarter person now for the last 4 years than I definitely ever was in college. Or even, you heard the companies I worked for. They were exquisite, excellent companies that people would die to work for. Didn't learn shit at those companies. I learned how to do my specific cog in the wheel job. That's rude to say I didn't learn shit. I learned a ton. But this is like steroids.
Yeah.
You are forced to become the person that you were meant to be when you start a business. And that's your hook. That's your hook for the podcast. So
there you go.
like, like that,
Yeah.
it'll challenge you to dig deep and sort of find these skills and wake up parts of your brain that you never knew you had to use. And I strongly encourage everybody in the world to take a crack at it if they want.
Yeah, man, it's very inspirational you say that, and I just want to like just ask you up front because I think it's an important thing for brand owners to understand when you're in it and you're in the thick of it and you're starting to see, okay, finance is not the strongest thing, it's catching me by surprise, have all these fees, or maybe when a product goes wrong or whatever the case is in the business for you, personally, if you don't mind, you sharing, what is that thing that's telling you to keep going and driving you to push this forward?
If you read the blog we talked about where I launched the company, I sort of like self-prophesized this is like a 10-year journey. So right when I started mentally, I have in my head year 10. And if that's true, then this is the third inning or fourth inning or whatever, right? So it's like, we're early stages, baby. Like we haven't even hit halftime yet. Like we're good to go.
Yeah.
So one, I love learning. And the cool thing about running stuff is you're always learning. There's always new stuff. There's always new shit going on. So like, AI didn't exist 4 years ago in the way that it does today.
Yeah.
And like, what does that look like when all this automation stuff happens and you're an owner instead of an employee, right? Instead of being afraid of losing your job, it's like, well, maybe I'll have an army of robots that can do this job way better than me, right? That's exciting. When you look at like all the stuff that's going on in biotech and stuff, like, wow, that's really exciting. Like, wait, maybe there's a way to make the NooWave coffee even better. Like I said at the beginning of this, like I like this stuff. If you took the company away from me by force, I'd still talk about it and I would still try to start like another NooWave. Like I like it. I love tech and stuff as well, but I think the thing that just keeps me going is like I launched this because it's a punk rock song. NooWave was named after an album by a band called Against Me, which is in the same article, and it's this lyric of like we could be the bands you want to hear. And like for me, it's still important to be like the way that I do things. Like you pointed out several times in this podcast, non-traditional, cookie cutter, but like I think it can work. And I want to inspire, like my goal is to be successful in this so I can actually come back on this podcast and be a useful guest where I can hopefully inspire people and say, hey, I did it. I made a couple million by being myself, Frank Sinatra, baby. I did it my way. And I really think there's value to that in society. And I think it's important. My goal is to be inspirational to people. So I hope to do that stuff. But the second answer to your question is like the arena that I want to play in is learning about all the stuff that I'm already into, right? I love self-help. I love productivity. I love like all the nerdy stuff. Like this is a force function for me to start building content. Now I have to learn about it. I'm reading more books about it and I'm becoming a better person. So NooWave is like secretly a stealth self-improvement company for Greg Frontero. Like that's the mission of it. So it's a really good goal. And I like I said, I love this baby of mine so much. So it's pretty easy. I never really think about quitting. I'm more just like, how can I keep this going in a sustainable way?
Brother, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the time. And if you guys are out there and you guys want to hit me up on Twitter, is SFW Greg. You can throw that in the show notes or whatever. I'll talk to you about anything. If there's anyone who wants to pick my ear, don't be the pick my brain guy. Like try to have a like an ask and an idea, and I'll be the same candor and the same radical truth that you need to hear. And I'll do my best to help anyone who I can.
Ladies and gentlemen, he will give you the sauce. Thanks so much, Greg. Bye.
I will for sure do that. Thank you very much.